And welcome to everyone out there. Welcome again. This is Beaufort County's House of Cards. I'm your host, Mike Covert, coming to you from beautiful Bluffton, South Carolina. It is straight up 7 o'clock here on the East Coast, 82 degrees, and could rain at any second. Now, I know we've got people all over the country tuning in now. This is kind of cool. We've got a great show for you tonight. Going to go to about 8:30 or so. Shorter if we need to, longer if you want to. And Beaufort County's House of Cards, mystery, mayhem, and manipulation. That's what this is all about. And yeah, from time to time, we'll go into other things, but there is so much to talk about right here in Beaufort County and the surrounding area and in South Carolina that we'll be busy for quite a while. We are broadcasting on Facebook Live, YouTube. Be sure to go check out our YouTube channel. Just search for Beaufort County's House of Cards. And we're also broadcasting on Twitch. Welcome all of those venues and platforms coming in here tonight. Please feel free to jump and send your messages, questions, concerns, anything you want to get off your chest regarding what we're talking about, or anything else for that matter. See, we don't censor you. That's a big deal. We don't censor you. Some places will. Some people will. We don't censor you. Now, if you get out of hand and you act like a horse's patoot, I might have to step in. But for the most part, we don't censor you. So tonight, what we're going to talk about, we're going to finish, or not finish. We're going to continue where we left off, talking about the Beaufort County DSN department. We have a guest that we're going to bring on here in just a short minute. Who was personally affected, and I kind of led into it rather last week. Personally affected by this, not only was this situation that's been going on with the DSN in Beaufort County has been exploiting people, which is absolutely inexcusable, but they've also ran people out of business. That's also inexcusable. And we'll talk about that. We'll bring Craig Malloy on here very shortly. He'll be joining us from Hilton Head. We're also going to talk a little bit about. I've got something really cool to share with you. I've been looking through the files, and I knew I had this, but I had to find it. We're going to talk about something that came up during the election, the primary, where one of the candidates running unopposed really laid it on yours truly, and I knew I had some data to back up what I was saying. So we're going to share that with you. Want to make sure that you get to see that. We're going to talk about some of the story that nobody talked about when it comes to. I'm sure everybody remembers Ashley Jacobs, who was county administrator for another short minute. Unfortunately, there's a mystery behind what happened when she resigned. There is a story, and I want to share that with you. And we'll talk as much as we need to about that. We're also going to talk about someone here in the Low Country had been looking for some FOIA paperwork on emails between county council members and others through their own personal email. So what are you talking about? Well, you can't, as a county council member, town council, commissioner, whatever, you can't perform county or town business on a private email. That's a no-no. That's a no-no. Because all public officials are part of the Freedom of Information Act guidelines. The people have a right to know. So we're going to talk about that. She was given some invoices, and I'll tell you about how that works, that were preposterous and effectively shut her down from trying to find the truth that she was looking for. We'll go into that. We'll also talk about some of the government secrecy and stonewalling that has happened in Beaufort County over past several years. Actually, probably several decades, if the truth be known. So we're going to talk about that and more. I'm also going to bring on another guest. Corey Allen of the Overton Report is going to be with us. He runs a podcast that I'm like on the coattails of. I wish I could do what he does. He's got quite an impressive investigative podcast and journalism career going on there. So we're going to have him on, and we're going to talk about some of the things like Willie Terrell and Crystal Matthews, Representative Crystal Matthews, and how all of a sudden it's like their paths are if they're not parallel, they're starting to mesh, and how odd that is. So we're gonna we got a busy schedule. Got a busy schedule. Love to have your questions. Please feel free to list your question to us. Um, and if I can again figure it out, I'll put it on the screen if it's apropos. Um, one of the things I wanted to first talk about before we bring on our first guest is county council here in Beaufort County recently um, approved the school board budget as well as the county budget for FY 22-23. Yeah, yeah. And I believe it came quite unanimously. I talked to a couple county council members, some folks in the public and so forth about what was in the budget. And as always, the transparency reports that they post on the website are only about half true, half there. Let's put it that way, half there. So with their budget, the school board budget, the big hurrah, and I agree with this in point is that the teachers got a needed pay raise, and believe me, if anybody is right there behind the teachers needing to be paid properly, I'm right there in that camp. They were paid horribly, horribly. South Carolina, Beaufort County rather should have been embarrassed for what they're getting paid. So the school board put together their budget and they bring it to county council. That's how this works. County council doesn't have anything to do with the school board budget except for setting the millage rate and approving that. So in other words, the school board comes to them and says, well, we're going to do all this, this, and this, and this. That's out of a professional courtesy. And the mills are XYZ. And because we know what the value of a mill is from the auditor's office, they can say, okay, well, that's an increase of, 1 mill over last year, maybe $5 million or whatever. So that's how you know if they went up or went down or what have you. So the increase in millage to afford this raise should have been, and this is something that I've preached and preached and preached, and nobody seems to get this. And it's so easy. Never should you agree to a tax increase that doesn't eliminate one or more taxes of equal than or greater value of what you proposed. That's right. Play that back later on and listen to that again. I've signed that over my career and I've lived to that. So what does it have to do with this? Well, I asked some of the folks on county council and some other folks in the school system, what'd you have to give up to be able to afford this pay raise? Well, the answer was nothing. We didn't give up anything. We shifted money around, moved it around like ingredients to a pizza, put the hamburger on top and then the pepperoni instead of the pepperoni and then the sausage. And they made it work. So they pushed money around, and did they cut anything? Probably. Did they make a defined effort to reduce expenses and cut some costs to be able to do this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The political pressure was there. I can tell you that on county council to vote yes. Myself and current county councilman Chris Hervishon are the only two council members that other than myself, he's the only one I can remember in recent history that have ever voted no to a school board budget or a county budget for that matter. Usually it gets rubber stamped and life goes on. You don't know any better. Did we save money? Did we spend more money? Where's my money going? They don't tell you that. So anyway, the county budget was approved. The school board budget was approved. The one thing that I still find this interesting was the coroner's office. Now, hardly anybody ever thinks about the coroner's office. They do a job that nobody really wants to know about. Just do it, and That's not a fun job. I know the coroner. I supported him when he ran for office, David Ott. He was a great policeman, great deputy, great leader in the law enforcement, and he's doing a fine job. No problems with him. What my issue is they appropriated $438,000 to the coroner's office to begin autopsies in Beaufort County. And there was pictures in the paper and online. And yes, county council built or refurbished an autopsy lab. Now, nothing's ever happened in there as far as autopsies go because we don't do them. People are sent to, for the most part, as far as I know, Charleston, to MUSC. So they appropriated $438,000 to begin autopsies, and they sold this as this. We're going to spend $438,000, and we're going to save $2,500. All right. Now, I was born at night, in the middle of the night, but it wasn't last night. You're going to spend 438 to save 42. How does that work? And where do I come out ahead? I being Jane Doe, John Q. Public. So I went and looked at what does it take to run that. Well, part of that 438,000, the pathologist salary is $275,000. Man, did I miss my calling. $275,000 to a pathologist. I certainly hope that's a full-time job. The assistant is paid $70,000. The assets for one-time, non-recurring funds, those first two, those are recurring funds. The assets for one-time, non-recurring funds is $88,000. You can call that the upfit. And then they penciled in the annual supply, what it costs to, whatever coroners use, whatever materials they use. They put in $5,000. I call BS on that. Well, I don't know anything about being a coroner. I probably spend more on that in gas to mow the lawn every year. So I think that's horse manure. But be that as it may, their costs, if you take out the one-time asset non-recurring fund, is still over $400,000 a year. What did you save, Beaufort County? What did you save or cut to be able to afford that? I know if I want to go buy a brand new truck or go buy my wife a brand new car, I've got to do something to be able to afford that. It wasn't just sitting out here in a pot that I went and perceived and utilized. So anyway, that is something to ponder. More of the budget three-ring circus that we call Beaufort County. So pay attention to that as time goes on. And I want to bring in now to the show. I'd like to welcome Craig Malloy. Craig, can you hear me? I got you on.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Hey, Mike, how are you?
There you are. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. This
good to see you.
First time I brought somebody on and everything is working, so I'm a little scared here.
Seems to be so far.
Yeah. So Craig, I told him a little bit about you that with the DSN situation, we started last week the topic. Of course, you and I have known each other for a long time. Full disclosure, I had met with Craig many times over the last several years, talking about what he's getting ready to talk about. And I told them that you not only were the consumers, as they like to be, as the people at DSN like to call their individuals, whatever. That's the word of the day.
Yeah,
not only have they been exploited,
that are in the program, right?
Yeah, there you go. Not only have they exploited them, and they continue to do that, they also ran you out of business. In a Reader's Digest version, give us a snapshot of what you did for the county and how did they run you out of business?
Okay, so long story short as I can make it, and this kind of issue's been going on for a while. I was in the janitorial cleaning business, and 1997, started in a small way with Beaufort County, cleaned some commercial properties for them. 97 to 2000, those 3 years. Then 2000 to '05 bid their big RFP, which is countywide, a fairly large contract, at the time, 100,000 a month, let's just say, um, 80 to 100. It fluctuated some because the county sells buildings, closes buildings to remodel or whatever, shift around apartments and so forth. So there was always a lot of that. But anyway, 2000 to '05 had the contract, employed, and then '05 to 10. And then the last one that I had was 10 to 15, all 15-year terms. Never once, obviously we employed 40-ish people for the county, just in their buildings. And then we clean also for USCB, the Paris Island, MCAS, Tech College, did some of the schools, public schools for a while, did most of the private schools, um, around here also. So did a lot of larger facilities and so forth, had equally as many other people working inside of Beaufort County buildings as inside. So we provided janitorial cleaning and various maintenance type service for them on those RFPs, and those are bid out to the public just like a normal RFP, and there's procurement laws and rules that have to be followed and so forth.
Mhm.
Somewhere in 010, we were in 10 to 15, we were awarded our final one, the last one we had. And somewhere in the 11-12 time frame, I was approached by Dave Thomas, a lady named Mitzi Wagner, who was the DSN director. I think Cubic asked me, also Mark Rosenau. Was the facilities director. Dave Thomas is the procurement director for Beaufort County. He ran all the RFPs and bids and so forth. Several meetings took place, and they wanted me to employ some folks that were disabled within their DSN program, or the DSN program. And they stuck on this one kind of requirement that they continued to ask me over 4 or 5 meetings about this, and that was and they almost tried to entice me to do this. It's like, hey, you only have to pay these folks like $2 and $3 an hour. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Minimum wage certificate, right?
Forget about it. I mean, I can't even price the work based on that, hoping, so, and I try to explain this, and I'm thinking, certainly these people know this. I mean, this is the procurement director and the facilities guy and so forth. You can't. So anyway, it just sounded very puzzling. So I take along on my contract, and the county put out a couple other small bids for buildings that were closed. That's kind of an important fact in the big picture.
Mhm.
And they're probably still closed. They've probably never been open, but they put these little buildings out for bid. The little ones they own out in 2,000 square footers. So they put these out for bid. I get the bid and package. So did two other legitimate janitorial companies, and I was bidding all kinds of stuff. So I bid the work, sent in the bid. A couple months later, called, and Dave Thomas, procurement director, says, "Oh no, we awarded that to our in-house DSN program." And I said, "Well, what's that? Why would you bid it? If you're doing it in-house, as an example, the county cuts their own grass. They don't bid it out to the greenery or Oceanside or Ocean Woods or that stuff. They do that in-house, and they don't bid it. You don't have, they don't have to. That's their prerogative. But if you do it and you go out to RFP, there's requirements. So companies that bid got to have insurance. They got to be a business. They got to be in that business. We spoke
So
earlier.
I think one important piece of this is where you're going, and people need to understand this, because this is a big painting. This is a huge painting we're talking about here. Is
Yeah,
that you are either a vendor or you're an employee. You can't be
correct,
both, whatever fits your fancy.
correct. And you could kind of throw a contract in that. Now, obviously, I was a legitimate janitorial cleaning contractor and maintenance contractor and so forth. So we, had all the licensing, all the state requirements, all the federal requirements. I've worked in FBI buildings. I've worked in airports. I went through the airport system with during 9/11 and all the security changes with that, Homeland Security checks and so forth, along with my key staff guys and so forth. So that was quite a uh, you know they really check into you, especially at 9/11. So
Mhm.
um, and I know kind of why you're pointing at that because much later on, what was it, 2019, this became an issue in front of county
Mhm.
council when you were on council.
Mhm.
And county attorney Tom Kevaney and procurement director Dave Thomas got up and lied through their teeth to you guys and gave you a song and dance. And I know you were the only guy that asked questions, and they kind of shut you down.
I think that was the first time they did that.
Yeah.
I
And
think that was the
I
first time.
was, I was, I was, frankly, by then, I had filed a lawsuit. I've since filed
Yeah.
several other claims that have never been addressed, and some retaliation things took place against me, very, very serious ones that I
So
filed
speaking
claims
of
for.
lawsuits, and yeah, so speaking of lawsuits, and you don't answer this if you still have lawsuits going on, we totally get it.
Sure.
But lawsuits are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
And if it's okay to answer, how much has it cost you from your business, your family in dollars? How much does it cost to protect yourself and defend yourself from the county in which you live in?
Well, number one, it put there was a point at which uh, I could not operate this business. It was the when I started asking the tough questions about DSN and how they can award bids and what are they doing about paying people $2 and $3 an hour on a competitively bid contract.
Mhm.
How is that and so forth? To give you an example, again, Mark now is the facilities guy, and I'd worked for them for 18 years. He and I walked facilities for Beaufort County for 18 years, probably quite twice a month at least. I saw him probably weekly. I know the buildings that the county owns better than most anybody. So, you know, at this point, um, this was I couldn't continue operating this business. I had a big staff, approaching 100 people
Mm.
or more. When the county started taking away building, giving it to their DSN program,
Yeah.
just swiping them out of my contract and not giving me any considerations, not even answering my phone calls or emails. This led to a lawsuit, and at that point, finding
Like dealing with
somebody
communists.
to sue the county is difficult around here because they keep all the lawyers kind of
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
But as you know, but
Well, when you hire them all, what do you
yeah, and I've
expect?
been here long enough to know a lot of the good ones who said, "Wow, man, I wish I could take this. This is a hell of a case, but I'm getting $3 million a year from them for
Yeah.
this."
Yeah.
So they're a bunch of cowards. But anyway, this is an eight-figure loss to me.
Yeah.
The business was the bad thing was the contract alone was $4.5 million. So um,
That's it's I've said this many times that Beaufort County, and I'm talking about the when people that are listening to this and watching this. When I say Beaufort County, I'm talking about the bureaucratic system, the government.
yeah,
They under the last several county administrators or interims or whatever junior whatever they are sue happy because they typically have more money than anybody else and they got a whole lot more time.
sure,
And that's
sure. And their
sad. That's
lawyers
sad.
are and the lawyer's Tom Kevaney is, he wouldn't even answer my emails after a while. I mean, he would not have he couldn't answer a single question. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
once Ashley Jacobs, who you mentioned, came in, I kind of bulldogged myself into a finance meeting and started to talk about and ask Joe Passman about some things, and he cut me off and said, "Meet with Ashley Jacobs." I did. She bought Chris Ingles, a different attorney who
Mhm.
didn't know all the nitty gritty, and he point blank asked me. He said when he couldn't answer any questions, asked me to submit a demand letter for him. And they have that demand letter and have never answered it. So that's still active and open as far as I'm concerned.
So Craig, this isn't one person, not at
Right.
all. And I really hope that people hear this and start putting things together, and because it's very confusing. I will say that it
Yeah.
is very
Oh,
confusing
it's yeah.
because you just don't think this would really happen, but it really
Right.
is.
Right.
This whole cast of characters, who is it to blame for this? Who do we blame? And we got a big cast.
Yeah. Well, so the county did this in 2011, coincidentally and suspiciously, and secretly, by the way, with a change of an ordinance right here, signed two county attorney at the time. Well, it had a
Mhm.
county council, Weston Newton, and another attorney in Cubic and so forth. Weston Newton, other than that, he's not on any other document. But the other characters, and he was head of county council, so maybe it's time he wasn't doing lawyer work for the county or whatever. But the county has absolutely no authority, legal authority, to take over DSN. It's kind of like the Veterans Affairs. It's
Right.
funded by Medicaid. It comes through the treasurer, and as I mentioned to you when we spoke earlier, I've got checks and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month down to DSN that have to go into a DSN bank account. They go into
Which
the
they don't,
county's general fund.
which you can attest
DSN
that
does
they do
not have
not go. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I said this last week, and now you're hearing it from Craig. What he just explained is something that we call commingling of funds. It is absolutely illegal to commingle federal and state dollars with local dollars. The general fund of Beaufort County is not the place to put Medicaid money, and I believe that's pretty much what this is with DSN,
eventually it
correct? It's
goes up to
Medicaid money.
Medicaid. Yeah, right. Federal Medicaid
Yeah,
pays for this. And so,
unbelievable,
and
unbelievable.
keep in mind
The
the reimbursement is about 3 or 4 to 1. So if they take a
Yeah,
hundred grand from me, they get 3 or 400 back somehow. I'm sure the state gets their piece and they get their piece. So you can see where all the way up the
yeah.
chain, nobody wanted to rock this boat. So I
Oh, sure.
realized as 3 or 4 months, every 3 or 4 month period through this, as we discovered some new stuff,
Mhm.
it was clear that I had uncovered a hornet's nest and touched a nerve that nobody wanted to be disrupted.
And I think that well, no, I know that that hornet's nest is still buzzing. I don't
Yeah.
think it's the folks in Columbia, and especially, as crooked as they are, DC, don't really know the overall impact of this. Because I think if they did, and people started talking about Medicaid money, commingling of federal and state dollars into a county's general fund, I would think, and it took me a while to really get my head around it. I would think that that would start to get people, in a whole different food chain, wanting to say, wait a minute, have we got that far yet, or are you still trying to get there?"
Well, it's there, and I'm going to show you. Just hold this up, and again, I got a ton of documents, so forth, and I know if there's some interest later, and you want to talk in a different setting and look
Yeah,
and see and post some of these documents, so forth. It's all public info. So that document I just
yeah,
showed is a letter from Governor McMaster when we discovered that ordinance was changed and the county's running this wrong. We called the
mhm,
governor's office because they're providing oversight. I
yeah, and he
personally
said,
wanted Governor McMaster is my witness in this case. I've been to his office twice. He hadn't shown up for a meeting. So,
and that letter in a nutshell pretty much said, "You
yeah,
boys better
yeah,
flip this back real quick."
yeah. So, and this letter was to Tom Kevaney,
Yeah,
the county attorney, saying you are operating this thing illegally. Switch it
right.
back. And which in that night, that's what those meetings in July 19 and so forth were. kind of centered around and so forth.
So, Craig, what I would like to do is get some feedback from the listeners. I would like to continue this. I'd like to, as we were talking, set up some kind of, and I don't know if we have to scan things and run them through another screen, which we can do,
Yeah.
or how we do all that. I need to get some input, and maybe Corey can give me. I mean, he's a lot smarter than me on this. Um, if that's something you want to do, and there's something that the listeners
Yeah, I
and
mean,
viewers,
like I said, I've,
explain it.
any way to, these guys have essentially screwed me 6 ways to Sunday, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
who their names are on the emails. I've got dozens of emails of them talking about doing this. So, I mean, Dave
right.
Thomas rigging bids blatantly. Any procurement person will see that.
Yeah.
Any contractor who's bid anything in their life will
Yeah.
see. They were arranging for DSN to win bids. They met
Mhm.
0 requirements to even be included, and they were awarded bids and allowed to pick what they
Well, one
wanted
of
to
the
do.
one of the missions and purposes here is to get out the truth and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
eradicate some corruption. So if we can help do that, let's continue this. And I'm sure there's some other folks that are listening that may want to help with that. And
yeah,
so hopefully this won't be the last time we have you on here. And I
yeah. That'd be
really
great. I'm
appreciate you being on
happy to
here.
come on and share more, talk more in this spider webs. And so there's a few other things. A lot of heads involved that people will recognize the names. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it needs to get out because this is wrong. In the end, the sad thing is, they were employing disabled folks for $2 and $3 an hour on a competitive contract.
That's right.
And again, I think on TV on the county channel, Dave Thomas is saying there is no way anybody could compete with this. I
Yeah.
mean,
I have a copy of that. Yeah.
this is lower than pond scum,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's
Craig, thank you
ridiculous.
for being on with us. We're going
Yeah,
to have you again, and we appreciate you here
yeah.
on Beaufort County House of Cards.
Anytime.
Thanks
Thanks
for
and good luck.
thank
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
You bet.
Are you ready?
All right. Thanks again to Craig for being on here. The DSN scandal. It's really and Beaufort County is like the only county in the state that does it this weirdly. Is that a word? Weirdly? I guess so. Maybe today it is. So anyway, let's move along, if you will. If you're interested in hearing more about Craig and Carolina Cleanings getting run out of business, getting the clean job from the county, get on here, send us a message. You can do it privately, you can do it here, call me, email me, whatever, Pony Express me, and we'll put it together. We'll put it together. Please jump on, give us some feedback. You can do it. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't forget, if you like to help support us here, go to Cash App, $ MCOVERT 1581. That's Cash App, $ MC 1581. We always appreciate folks helping us. So let's skip around just a little bit. I want to bring in another guest. Um, give you some background from the primary. Leading up to the primary over the last year or so, there were 2 people running for auditor in Beaufort County. David Cadd, who had worked as deputy auditor under Mr. Jim Beckett, the auditor, who was embroiled or is embroiled in legal stuff with the treasurer, a current treasurer, and and others, and then Mr. Willie Terrell. Mr. Terrell, a 4th grade math teacher. Um, some of the other things that I've read, I've looked to find, like this some private school, and I don't see where it exists, but I know he taught 4th grade. I couldn't teach 4th grade, but he can teach 4th grade. Anyway, he's running for auditor. Both running as a Republican, both on the ticket, and I will say, Um, Up until May of this year, Mr. Terrell had one hell of a campaign. I mean, he was getting out there. He was getting seen. He was getting heard, getting airtime. Um, I mean, it was really, the setup was going well for his campaign, and then a video was released, was leaked, was whatever you call it, between he and his brother who lives in New York. And in that video, Mr. Terrell said many things that were not only anti conservative, they were also anti American in my view. Many of them, they were very racial, very hateful, very sinister, deceitful. We could go on, but you get the picture. A little while later, another video is released of him at a bank trying to withdraw money, or yeah, I think it was withdrawing money or whatever. He didn't have his driver's license with him. Strange, but the bank wouldn't do what he asked because he didn't have his license. Well, he turned this in a very benign situation. He turns this into a racial epithet on ridiculous behavior of an adult. There was absolutely nothing racial from the bank to Mr. Terrell, but he turned it into it. Completely off kilter of anything normal. So these things started to add up. Then a tape was released of he and Treasurer Maria Walls at a I believe it was a gospel music station on the radio, saying things about and I'm paraphrasing, do what you have to do to win these races. Do what you have to do to win these races. And you got to learn to play the game. I remember him saying that you got to play the game if you want to win. So this whole thing started to build and it started to burst. Many people came out, Tom Davis, Senator Davis, Sheriff Tanner, saying, hey, we got nothing to do with this guy. That's it. Well, his campaign imploded. Um, Different things happened, and he was waxed. I mean, he was waxed. I think we'll bring Corey on here in just a second. He even calls it, I think actually, Willie may have called it a landslide. I call it a waxing because David Cadd waxed him. So a lot of this was um, put out there for your viewing pleasure and for news outlets to pick it up. This stuff has been on national newspapers, national radio, statewide. You know, Fitz News is done, and they're pretty much one of the best investigative journalists in as far as non-print news on the full-time level as there is, and they ran with it. Um, but the biggest part of this has been brought to light by the Overton Group, and I'd like to bring on right now to the show Corey Allen. Corey, good evening. I hope you can hear me, see me.
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit. Probably these storms we have. We just had one leave here, headed up your way towards.
Yeah, it might be that. So let me know. I'm going to talk for a minute, and let me know if you can hear me. Are you having a problem?
Yeah,
okay,
I can hear you.
cool.
You're good.
Awesome.
I can hear you. You're good. You're good.
I want to touch on what Craig Malloy said earlier. Actually, it's interesting that you just had him on. He and I spoke a couple of years ago about this same issue, and I made a couple of phone calls to Beaufort County, and I hit a wall so quick. They were not interested in giving me any information about how they play both the side of employees and vendors or contractors. They weren't interested in letting me investigate that. So good luck to him, man. It's terrible. He's still going down that road. I hate that for him.
Yeah,
But you were
it's worse than terrible because they've exploited people. They've exploited him. They're they're mingling state federal monies with public monies. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really bad.
You know what actually made me kind of react, I don't know, emotionally to that story was the fact that they are trying to get mentally handicapped people to do work for less than minimum wage. That to me
Yeah.
is disgusting. Actually, it was Craig Malloy and him leading me down that road. I had no idea before speaking to him that that was even a thing where it's perfectly legal for a government to pay people $2 an hour because they're mentally handicapped. It's beyond disgusting. That's something you'd see in the Chinese Communist Party, not Beaufort County, South Carolina, you would think.
Right. Well, yeah. There's they fly beneath the cape of something called a sub minimum wage certificate. That's their get out of jail free card with that, but to a point. That's only to a point, and they've crossed that line, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
So they're alleged. But hey, maybe this is something you'd like to. I don't want to let this go. I think there's a lot more to it. Obviously, they've gotten by with a lot, and some folks that aren't even here, are probably getting phone calls like, "Oh my God, Covert's digging up this bone," but it's not right. It's not right to those individuals who got exploited. It's not right to Mr. Malloy who lost millions and millions of dollars. It's not right.
Millions. Not at all. And especially, the
Did I
government.
lose you?
No, can you hear me?
Are you there, Corey?
I am.
There you go.
Do you hear me? Yeah. Okay, sorry. The one thing that the government does.
Go ahead.
One thing that the government does is they take people or businesses and they force these businesses into a position to rely on them, the government. And then using that power, they will exploit the business and they will push you into positions where you do things that you otherwise wouldn't do. That is something that corrupt governments do all the time. But moving on to Willie Terrell, because I'm super excited to talk about that.
Right.
They
might as well take people. They might as well take people, these business owners, put them up against the wall, and then, that's what they're doing.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. But this.
But hey, let's
go ahead. I'm very sorry. I think we're having a little issue with the timing.
Yeah, weather's.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Mr. Terrell and Crystal Matthews. I have a little piece I want to play that you provided, along with a lot of your coverage has been phenomenal. But let me see if I can bring that up. And yes, I can. So let's go over here, folks. You're going to get a kick out of this. Boom. And take a listen.
Because the people that came at me, one dude is like a neo-Nazi right-wing journalist, and he's putting this stuff out like, this is Willie Terrell.
It should be noted that this doctor audio is being leaked by Project Veritas, a known white supremacist group.
Like, we need them to run as the other side, even though they for our side.
One dude is like a neo-Nazi right-wing journalist, and he's putting this stuff out like, this is Willie Terrell.
Now, a neo-Nazi journalist?
Yes.
That's not you.
You would think. To be honest with you, I'm I'm not even gonna lie to you. I have had on a few of the local channels out here in the Charleston area, News 2, Live 5, ABC News 4, which is WCIV. These these channels, they will lend time to some of the leftist activists in the area. The same leftist activists that caused the riots in Charleston and other cities like Columbia and Greenville in 2020. And these people will go on live television doing press conferences saying my name and the names of people that I work with. And they will call us neo-Nazis, white supremacists. They will throw out all of the usual vitriolic race baiting nonsense. But the thing is that those are leftists doing that. The difference here is that we have a man who claims to be a Republican, claims to be a conservative, using the slogan "Faith, Family, and Freedom" is actually the slogan he uses. And he will go on and say things like, "I'm a neo-Nazi." I called him to ask him what he meant by that. He did not answer, and he has not called me back yet. I hope he does. Willie, I would really like to talk to you about these things. But, you know, he goes on to talk about a couple of other women who are activists. They're conservative activists in that area, in Beaufort County. And he says, "I can't believe your husbands are allowing you to do this." That's right. 3 women. "I can't believe your husbands are allowing you to get involved in politics." These misogynistic, race-baiting tactics, every time we see it, the leftists do this and then blame conservatives. Now, what would be the best way? Crystal Matthews talks about having sleepers in the Republican Party. What would be the best thing a sleeper in the Republican Party could do? Well, they could act as a homophobic, misogynistic person who calls members of their own party neo-Nazis. That would be the best thing a sleeper in the Republican Party could do. And lo and behold, that's exactly what Willie Terrell has done the past few weeks. Imagine that.
You know, I think it's imagine that. And this is, we're all alleging this. I mean, you know, I have reached out to Mr. Terrell and he's never called me back. I've been on his page, but I mean, there's nothing for me to comment on, but I mean, he knows me. But you know, what I find interesting is that, and again, it's alleged that he is. I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah.
But the thing with Crystal Matthews, and I'll let you tell folks who she is if they don't already know, but the thing that's interesting, because in her audio, where Project Veritas, the video of her audio talking to a prisoner who has a rap sheet a mile long and he's in jail for like attempting or threatening the life of a sheriff or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, she's talking about these sleepers that you mentioned. And then again, it's alleged, but, and I think I may have mentioned this to you, it's awful similar. I mean, they're running parallel in many different avenues, don't you think?
Well, I can say that, you know, Crystal Matthews is a Democrat state rep. She was a BLM activist prior to taking office, being elected in a very Democrat area in Charleston, around the same time that Stacey Abrams purchased an office in District 1. Which was after Joe Cunningham lost his election. So District 1, now we have District 1 where Crystal Matthews is going out with these leftist activists and saying the exact same things that you see various Democrat politicians in extreme left areas like San Francisco and Seattle and Portland and New York City, using the exact same language. Then in the same district at the same time, you have a person who kind of checks all the boxes on the things that she has been exposed discussing. I find that extremely interesting, at the very least. And
Very.
hey,
Very.
maybe Willie did have this, come to God moment where he realized that the ideals and the ideas of the left are absurd, because I think we can all agree that they are absurd, but that is different than demanding leadership positions in the party, right? So founding Young Republican Club and the videos that you referenced were recorded, at least some of them, after founding a Republican club for young people in Beaufort County. So it's different. I'm not a perfect person. I'm a recovered opiate addict. Okay. Like, I get that, I screwed up when I was younger and I realized the error of my ways. Now, personal accountability, that's different than me coming to you and saying, I am the epitome of conservatism and I deserve your vote on the Republican Party ticket. And that's really
right.
That's
don't
all
you
I was
find
trying
it
to say in the beginning.
Yeah, but don't you find it interesting, like some of the things he said, such as, I've done everything the Beaufort County GOP has asked me to do.
Mm-hmm. That's something that we're looking into, actually, because if you look at the Beaufort County Young Republicans, or the Beaufort Young Republican Club, which is Willie's 501c3, it uses the same address as the Beaufort County Republican Party, the Beaufort County GOP. It uses the same address for their incorporation. Yeah. Now, the chairman of the BCGOP said that he doesn't necessarily recall giving permission, but that he would,
right,
or he sees himself as, if he was asked, he would definitely have said yes. They're an affiliate group. So yeah, you look at these things and you kind of think, what's really going on here? What's really going on? So, oh look, David Cadd. They called me the same name on Facebook during the primary.
How about that? It's just too many, like you said, there's a point in everybody's life, I hope, where they have a come to Jesus moment. I had, okay. And that's fine. But when I look at the timeline, and I'm one of those visual kind of people that I've kind of, and I've got a friend who helps with a lot of this, and she kind of puts it on timelines. And so I had to do a mental timeline. He was talking with his brother on that video, and then it was shortly thereafter, all of a sudden he becomes a reborn conservative, not after talking that way.
Within a couple of months, he founded the Beaufort Young Republican Club.
Yeah.
Come on, man. And then not only that, but 2 days ago, on July 4th, he sits there and he says that,
I think, suffice to say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here if you're there.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. Yep, I'm here.
Sorry about that.
So,
but on
days
July
ago,
4th,
he posted what was in his post?
In his post, he accused these women, or said that these women were that their husbands shouldn't allow them to be involved in all of these politics and things. And he also said something that I found extremely racist. He said that he's too, I almost hate repeating it. He said, I'm too black and cultured to be in the Republican Party. And keep in mind, we're talking about the South Carolina Republican Party that was founded by former slave Robert Smalls, one of the biggest.
Smalls. We talked about that here 2 weeks ago. Yeah. One
of the most amazing men in history, who was so appalled at what he saw happening from the Democrats in the South that he stole a slave ship and then founded the South Carolina Republican Party. I just, none of these things really make
That's right.
sense to me. And I would again, I've
they
called him. I'd love to speak to him about it.
Yeah. Last week, I guess it was last week or the week before, I don't remember. I gave the story of Robert Smalls and how he escaped, and I tell you, in my opinion, every person of color that lives in the South, I'm just talk about here, should understand that story, and if they adhere to or think they do the Democratic Party, they really need to understand the history. And the what were they called, the whiskey Democrats? I mean, they George Tillman, those were
Mhm.
bad people, and,
Yeah.
and then they were Southern Democrats. They were bad, and the people of color that was the Republican Party. And like you said, Robert Smalls he's the father of the Republican Party in South Carolina. There's just no
Yeah.
two ways about it. So,
It's one of those things, man, where you have this group of people who and they're dead set on things need to be this way. Things need to be X way. And when you have other people that come in and try and shine a light, this is something that we have faced a lot, actually. The Overton group, the Overton report, me as a person. You go in and you shine this light, and you have a lot of people that are invested in the way things are, who will fight you tooth and nail regardless of whether or not what you're saying is true or correct or truthful. It's one of those things where, just like when a person or a group is trying to fight a bureaucracy, the bureaucracy is the powers that be, the establishment as it exists, they all have a stake in keeping it the way it is. And that's human nature. I get it. I don't fault, say, the South Carolina GOP for trying to cover things up and make themselves look as good as possible. But that doesn't change the fact that there are some things they're doing that are wrong. Just because you have a stake in something existing as it exists does not mean that it's wrong to really shine a light, look at it from the outside and say, look, man, what y'all are doing here is kind of shady. Let's kind of
and that is
restructure.
Sure. There are, as you're aware, there are many rabbit holes that can go down with that particular thing. And right now, the South Carolina GOP looks poorly. Beaufort County GOP, and I can't speak for any other county other than my own, they are a level below poorly looking. With what happened during this primary, and again, I can only speak for Beaufort County. What happened up there in Dorchester, Charleston, and Berkeley County, I don't know. But there is a lot of work to be done. These machines are not the answer. Where I'm going with that is I appealed to the State Election Commission and the SCGOP, not because I thought I won. That wasn't it at all. It was because there was, whether it was 70 or what I calculated 211 or 217 people that did not get they didn't get the exercise of voting. That wouldn't have made a difference in my race. If they'd all voted for me, that wouldn't have done it. But it's not about that. It's about they didn't get the chance to vote. The Beaufort County GOP, when this, I'm the one that brought it to light. My wife and I went to vote, and I wasn't on my own ballot. The Beaufort County GOP, the chairman, wrote this letter to the state and to the county election commission. This is unacceptable. We won't stand for this. And I was like, wow. I've been busting this guy's balls for weeks because he's a slack. And all of a
Because you're
sudden,
right, though.
so, a few days go by, and I'm faced with, if I want to continue my lawsuit, it's going to cost 25, 35,000 at least. Figure double that if you want to do anything. So 50 grand. And even the lawyer's like, why should one man or one person have to pay for that? Your county's party. It's like, well, you know what? You're right. You got a good point. To this day, I haven't heard, from Kevin and the Beaufort County GOP. It was unacceptable at one point in time, but when the rubber hit the road and they needed to stand up for those 70 or 217 people, that's right. That's what it's all about.
Mhm.
They lost sight of it. They forgot about it.
You know what the problem is? Is
Unbelievable.
it's like you said, it's not about whether or not you were going to win your race. It's about 70 to 200 and some odd Beaufort County voters who have now been disenfranchised permanently. So that means that the next race, where somebody wins by 40 votes because those 70 people were disenfranchised previously and will never vote again because of it, that affects future elections. And that kind of goes back to the point of, regardless of if there is a constitutional path to the presidency. And I was arguing this back in early 2021, regardless of whether or not there's a path to the presidency, because we all know that the Constitution says no. The Senate, they've already certified the vote, so that is the constitutional. There's no constitutional remedy for that. However, we still need to move forward in this audit and understanding what actually happened so that it doesn't happen again, so that we don't get things like, I don't know if you noticed, but in South Carolina, the voter turnout was 16%, which is lower than it's been in over a decade for primaries. That is the effect of disenfranchising voters, because it happens on a permanent basis. It's not a single thing. It's not a single vote. It's not a single election year. It's a permanent thing. When a voter is disenfranchised,
Apathy is real.
You're right. And if somebody's telling you and proves to you your vote doesn't matter, well, you'll never vote again. I really appreciate you having me on, man. We are doing a timeline on the Crystal Matthews February discussion moving forward. I know you said you're interested in timelines. Keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Well, I tell you, I want to, continue. I know you're busy and you got a huge network show and all that kind of stuff. So whenever you have time, let's try to schedule another time for you to come on. Love to have you. Tell everybody how they can check out the Overton report online.
For sure. So you can follow me on Facebook at Corey All-in. Corey All-in. The reason it's that is because Facebook banned the name Corey Allen years ago. Five profiles within the span of 3 months were deleted. So Corey All-in. CoreyAll-in. Also, the Overton Report.substack.com. That is where a lot of our investigations go out. You just put your email in. You can sign up for free, or you can do a paid subscription monthly, or you can do a yearly subscription and really help us out. Then also YouTube, just youtube.com/The Overton Report. That would be the best way. And also, of course, Venmo, Overton-Report, if you want to support us that way, or gibsongo.com/Overton Report. We're everywhere. Gab, Telegram, just search the Overton Report. Right. You'll find us. So I really appreciate
Corey,
what you're doing.
I appreciate you coming on with us. Absolutely. We thank you for joining us. And folks, check out Corey Allen and the Overton Group, the Overton Report, all over the web. So thanks, buddy.
Thanks, man.
All right. There we go. Corey Allen. How about that? So it is 5 minutes after the hour, 20:05 for my military friends out there and police and EMS and fire, corrections, all of you. It is 20:05 hours, 78 degrees. It looks sweaty outside. So let's move on. I wanted to go into something, and I'm not going to be able to get to everything. So that's just gonna build the suspense for the next show. Um, I want to talk about something that was posted by our treasurer, Maria Walls, who I think the world of, back during the primary. I think you all need to hear about this.
Are you ready?
So, if you're a user of social media a lot, and I guess you are, or you wouldn't be here, you know that I don't remember the date, but it wasn't long before the election, the primary. There was an event in Beaufort at the VFW, and it was a Beaufort County GOP executive meeting. And anyway, the soon-to-be auditor, David Cadd, candidate at that time, got up to speak, said that his I don't even know what he said. He said his due, um, and I don't believe he said anything inflammatory towards women or our treasurer. I don't believe that. But whatever he said, and I don't remember. It's really neither here nor there. Whatever he said really torched her, the treasurer, and she got up on stage, and it's on video. And I mean, her 2 or 3 minutes, she lit into him. She lit into him. After that was over, I had made the comment that I thought, this is the next day, I thought that was a little unprofessional. That's not how a sitting elected official should speak to a candidate. Now, granted, what she's been going through with the current auditors, the whole legal thing, with the back of it's a lot. I'm sure the stress level is up to here, but what was done there was unprofessional, and I called it out. And I still think it was unprofessional, but it is what it is. Is what it is. So the treasurer went on to, I believe it was Facebook, and had made the comment that I, Mike Covert, didn't do anything when this was going on when I was on county council, and how could I do that, and how could I support a whatever she called him, someone who doesn't look out for the needs of women, and why did I look uh, a blind eye, and blah 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 blah. I mean, it was really hurtful. It was extremely hurtful, and again, I think the world of her. She's very professional, does an awesome job, but this really hurt. And I told her, I said, I really think you should apologize. I know her on that level. You should apologize. That's uncalled for, and it's not true. I mean, everybody knows me. That is far from the truth. Well, she said, I will certainly do no such thing. And I'll let it go. I'll let it go. So I want to share with you. Let me go to share my screen here. And it took a little while to find. I just couldn't find the article. But this is an article from Fitz News. And there is Treasurer Maria Walls. And over here to the left of your screen is that's Mr. Beckert, the auditor. This article was in Fitz News, August 26, 2020. And I'm not going to read it to you, but I'll paraphrase while you're reading. This story is about what Mike Covert really did during the time when this legal fireball was getting underway. I sent an email to the administrator, Ashley Jacobs, Chairman Joe Passament, and this is only about this time. Let me remind you of that. Anyway, my email had told them that I had been thinking about this. It's troubling. I had been thinking about this because I met with the treasurer, and she She told me the whole story of what had been going on, and the cameras and the watching and the all that. I talked to her about it. She's an elected official. I'm an elected official. The auditor is an elected official. And I went to, I told the administrator and the chairman I had been doing some thinking about it. And there had just been a public notice of this lawsuit between Mrs. Walls and Beckert. I had previously talked to the chairman alone and the former chairman alone. And understood that because they're elected officials, county council has zero. We can't do anything. They're an elected official. They answer to one body, and that is the public. The county administrator pretty much has the same thing. But, however, what I told them was the county administrator, who reports to county council, the only employee, is in charge of the building to which both of these elected officials have their office. So my suggestion to Ms. Jacobs and Mr. Passament was that the county could relocate the auditor's office and employees to another building off campus. And I told him, I said, hey, this will serve the county well. It'll serve Mr. Beckett well. And obviously Ms. Walls and the treasurer's office. Now, I asked the question in my email to them, well, why does, one would say, as I say right here, why does he have to move? And I said, well, simple. And I think this is a justifiable reason that he should move, because the treasurer's office has monies on hand, and other pertinent investment information, et cetera, in her possession. And those should be as close to the county administration as possible. So it only makes sense, no matter what the situation, that the auditor would be removed. The county has plenty of buildings. They made him a spot over at BIV2, just 3 or 4 or 5 miles down the road. Boom. And the county administrator said that's a great idea, and did that. So through this article that Fitz News wrote, they go into the background of the lawsuit, and that's neither here nor there with what my conversation was about. And you see right there, the author, Mandy Matney, because Beckert is an elected official, the decision to move him would likely have to come from county council. That was about removing him from office. There's a whole nother story about that. However, let's pull this back up here and go back to my screen. So I bring this up today for the simple fact that Ms. Walls needs to remember that it was me who went to bat for her and every other woman that felt that there was a problem in the office place at Beaufort County's administration building. I'm not looking for any accolade, anything. That's not me. But she does need to set the record straight. Mr. Cadd is not the one at fault here. The problem with the auditor is a definite problem in her and the previous financial officer. I get it. I'm right there with her. I understand. But a blind eye was not turned. Action was taken on her behalf by county council through myself. So we just put that out there. Little more information. The truth always comes out. The truth always comes out. So it is 8:14. We've got 15 minutes left in this show. Gosh. Let me tell you all a story about the former county administrator. Here's some crooked news from Beaufort County. Some folks have asked, and some folks probably haven't asked, but have wondered, why did she resign? What's the real story? It came out but nobody ran with it. And I'm kind of surprised. I'm actually kind of surprised that this did not come out during the campaign. If the shoes had been flipped, I probably have brought it out about me. See what happened, and I guess it was like September, October. I don't remember. 2019. We were county council having a meeting at the Buckwalter Recreation Center. The meeting was normal as normal can be. Went into executive session. It was time to talk about the county administrator as far as contracts and so forth. Executive session is a closed door session. Executive session has very minimal things that can be talked about there outside of the public view. Okay. Normally those are employment contracts, which we only had one, the county administrator, but county council past has abused that. Contracts, which only apply to purchases or sales, which they've abused that. There are to be no, I'm sorry, and also client lawyer, attorney client privilege, and they've abused that. So behind closed doors, they started talking negatively about the then county administrator, Ashley Jacobs. They then started taking and asking for votes to fire her, completely against executive session privilege. I sat there, listened to this. I abstained from any conversation. I got up and I left after it was over. I told them all, what you've done here is illegal. I will not be a part of this. And I left. Well, that night, I had a big decision to make. Do I say something? Do I break the code? Talking about what went on behind closed doors? I came to the conclusion the next day or the day after or whatever, that for me to lay my head on the pillow and be able to sleep and look at myself in the mirror, and that's a big mirror, I had to do the right thing. Yes, that's a big mirror. Thank you. I had to do the right thing. And the right thing was alert the people who put me in office that this is going on. Alert the county administrator and the county attorney. And they were in there. They already knew this, what was going on. So I came out and I went public with it. And there was threats of lawsuits, but they quickly diminished because there are no laws regarding county council and executive session when it comes to that. Our rules and the regulations don't cover that. I'm smarter than that. But what they did was taking advantage of Ms. Jacobs. They took advantage of all 11 of us on county council in many different ways. They actually talk about exploitation. They exploited us to push her out. Now, this was ring led, if that's a word. The ring leader was Stu Rodman, Paul Somerville, and Joe Passament. To an extent, Larry McKellen. To an extent. They sat there and manipulated people to push her out. They gave her an ultimatum. No unsuch words. People aren't stupid. Quit or be fired. Quit or be fired. And with firing rather, there's not implications. There are stipulations that happen that could negatively affect the person on down the road looking for another job just because there's a black mark. Were you ever fired? Yes. But wait a minute. No. Yes. That's the answer. Yes. So Ms. Jacobs took the road that I would have advised if she'd asked. She didn't, but I would have advised her to resign. I would have probably have gone kicking though. But the point of this is what they did was wrong. What they did was wrong. It wasn't wrong to me. It was wrong to her or anybody else that had been in that position. That was wrong. That was wrong to take the public's trust in their elected officials and use it as toilet paper. Matter of fact, we treat toilet paper better than those people, those men and women who voted yes to pressure her to leave. There's an article, I challenge you to look it up. This particular one also was produced by Mandy Matney, who is a reporter extraordinaire with the Murdoch case, and she has her own podcast, The Murdoch Murders, something to that effect. Anyway, it was published October 19th, 2020. Search for that. And she talks about the good old boys, and she refers to them, the good old boys, Paul Somerville, Stu Rodman, who I will have to say the one overwhelming thing, there was a lot of good things, but the one overwhelming thing from this election where I know I won is because Stu Rodman is off county council come January. Paul Somerville is off county council. Tom Reitz will be your new council person out of Hilton Head District 11, and David Bartholomew in over in Beaufort Ladies Island District 2. That's a huge win. The good old boy system, those particular good old boys have been defeated. The work's not done. There's a few more. But anyway, this article is a great article where Mandy talks about the employment of Ms. Jacobs, where she created the county's first budget book. We didn't have a budget book. She found $1 million that was hidden in the budget for positions to fund, and the money was it was being used without purpose, rather, and unaccounted. Some of it goes into this DSN deal. She put in a sick leave policy, paid sick leave that we didn't have, or the county employees didn't have. And she completed and secured fair pay for the special needs adults who were being exploited under this sub-minimum wage certificate by the county. She was probably the most qualified. Well, not probably, she was. She was the most qualified county administrator I've seen in decades. Beaufort County's loss is Wake County, North Carolina's gain. She loves it in Wake County, Raleigh, and I wish her absolute best. But Beaufort County has got to fix some of the things that are going on in the background from this good old boy system. Hopefully that this show, the Beaufort County's House of Cards, the mystery, the mayhem, and the manipulation can help bring that down. Shows like the Overton Report, publications like Fitz News, and there are countless others. Hopefully they can help bring that down, bring that to a close. Those people that are elected officials that operate these secret behind door meetings, and we have documented proof pictures of Stu Rodman holding meetings in Sea Pines. It's like a little mini council. Those days have got to be over. People are starting to speak. They did this year in the election with 2 new council members. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody all of a sudden pokes their nose in and runs against Alice Howard in District 4 in Port Royal. So you heard it here first. And yes, Janet Will Folks does a great job with Fitz News. And I'd like to see some other folks on Hilton Head get involved in county politics. So my challenge to a lot of you is to get involved. Get involved on the level of a board or commission. There are tons of them out there. You can, put your name in the hat, if you will, to get on these different boards. And when you're on them, you can make a difference by saying no to this good old boy system, standing up for righteousness. And I'm not saying you have to be conservative. I would prefer that. But look, when it comes to potholes and trash and parks and recreation, veterans affairs, solid waste, whatever, it doesn't know any political party. Doesn't know it. It doesn't matter. Yes, I would like to see conservatives in charge, without a doubt. But I want to see good people even more. I want to see good people taking a stand for what's right. You see it on the news about if you see something, say something. That can apply here. If you see a problem, let's do something to fix the problem. What we've been used to for too many years has gone on for far too long. And maybe we're making a little bit of headway in cleaning some of that up here in Beaufort County. Again, my name is Mike Covert. This is the Beaufort County House of Cards, Mystery, Mayhem, and Manipulation. Coming to you from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you want to help the show, check out Cash App and log into $MC1581. That's $MCOVERT. Let me correct myself. $MCOVERT 1581. We appreciate anything, and we appreciate everybody. So thanks again. We'll see you next Thursday right here on Beaufort County's House of Cards.